How did Hitler change the lives of young people? This is a really interesting topic, and it's one that we're going to spend perhaps 10 minutes just going through today. So there's two ways that the Nazis did this, and the first one was about in school, so what students were doing in the schools, and the other one was after school, and that obviously includes weekends. So what we're talking about is the wider life of a young person in Nazi Germany. I'd like to start off with in school. And the first thing the Nazis did from 1933, the year that Hitler came to power, is to sack all Jewish teachers. And in fact, other teachers were sacked too. Teachers who didn't agree with Nazi policy were sacked or dismissed. So it was an attempt to Nazify the schools from the off. And the aim of school became indoctrination. Indoctrination. There we go. Or, in other words, brainwashing. That was the aim. That was what the education system was there for in Nazi Germany. So subjects changed. For a start, history would change. History became about Germany's glorious past, the days of Bismarck, the days of German unification. Of course, they're not going to discuss the fact the German army failed in World War One. The only discussion they're going to have is the stab in the back myth, the November criminals. Their German weakness isn't going to come up in the history curriculum. They're also going to look at the world as it is in the 1930s, the League of Nations, the Treaty of Versailles. They're going to learn about how humiliating and wrong that treaty was. Chemistry. I'm sure you can guess some of the things they might be doing in chemistry, learning how to create bonds, learning about how different atoms mix and how different chemicals can be mixed together, perhaps to create gas. It's all about weapons, and it's all about war. It's all about warfare, really, and so is history. And moving on from there, geography, reading maps, orienteering, preparing, particularly the boys, obviously, for a life in the army, being able to navigate themselves in enemy territory. So lots of subjects changed, and you also had new subjects like eugenics, which was the study of race or race theory. In eugenics lessons, students would be shown images of a typical Aryan and images of a typical Jew. A child might be asked to come to the board and distinguish between the two, to point out stereotypical features of an Aryan and a non-Aryan. And they, of course, within eugenics, the express aim was that the children should realise that they belonged to the superior race and they were superior and Jews were inferior. In addition to that, you had Nazi theory lessons where perhaps they would learn about Hitler. They would read Mein Kampf, Hitler's book, My Struggle, about his life and his beliefs and his values. So school became very much about brainwashing and indoctrination and preparing boys for war or for service in the army. What about girls? Well, girls, of course, were really going to be mothers. So a lot of the lessons in school changed for girls too. So, for example, you had plenty of sex education lessons. Biology became about how to keep yourself healthy so you could have lots and lots of children. How to eat the right things, and of course, how to actually look after children as well. So it was very, very definitive. Boys, soldiers, girls, mothers. And this came across in every aspect of the Nazi schools. What about after school? And there were two organisations that the Nazis set up because they wanted to control the lives of young people at all times as much as they possibly could. So they set up the Hitler Youth, which, if you like, was like a Nazi version of the Scouts. And they also set up the League of German Maidens, which was its sister organisation. So the League of German Maidens was for girls, the Hitler Youth was for boys. What did they do? The Hitler Youth, they went on camps for weekends, they had meetings during the week, they wore brown shirts, they sang Nazi songs, they went on marches. It's one of the most notorious or famous examples of what they would do is compete for the Hitler Achievement Award. To get that award, you would have to shoot an air rifle at a target. You would have to do lots of other physical things, boxing and so on. So it was very much links in with what they're doing in school, what they actually did outside of school, and later on, the Hitler Youth actually became compulsory. So all boys had to be in the Hitler Youth from the late 1930s onwards. Of course, there were those young people who didn't want to join the Hitler Youth or the League of German Maidens, and that some of them found ways of avoiding membership. And we'll come on to that later when we look at opposition to the Nazis. But one thing that is absolutely clear from everything we've just looked at, it was all about control. It was all about control, and it was all about making sure that young people were ready to serve and become part of the Third Reich.